Welcome everyone to ThursdAI for April 17th. And this has been a week, folks. This has been a week. I've been telling folks that this is our third live stream. And I don't remember another week that we live streamed for 3 times for 2 hours. So a lot to talk about. Today's show is a very interesting one because also we have an interview with someone you don't want to miss. You absolutely don't want to miss this. We have an interview with Todd Segal. Todd Segal is a software engineer extraordinaire at Google, I believe staff, that he works on the A2A protocol. We've talked about the A2A protocol a bit before, and now it's time to us to actually interview somebody that works on the protocol, which is, I think, is great. So if you heard us talk about MCP, we're probably going to mention MCP in this show this week as well, because that's on everybody's mind. A2A protocol from Google is agent-to-agent protocol. We briefly covered this last week, I believe, but we definitely want to go deeper. And as we go deeper, we'll realize a few very interesting things about this, specifically that they can coexist with MCP, but also this is the protocol on top of which agent communication is probably going to be built. And Google launched it with 50 partners. Weights and Biases is one of those partners as well. And I'm very excited about this interview. I think that you guys will get a front row seat to a conversation about a protocol that's as likely to blow up as much as MCP did, which is, I think, great. Welcoming also to the stage our friend Yam Peleg. Yam, welcome. How are you, man? How was your third live stream this week, man? Third live stream. We've been very online.
What a week! What a week! Crazy.
Absolutely, folks. Just before we begin with the TLDR, just as kind of folks are coming in, I want to reflect on the first 3.5 months, almost 4 months of this year. Do you feel it's crazier, regular pace, as expected? I want to hear from you guys because I feel
absolutely crazier. Absolutely, it's much faster. Like there is no question. It's crazy, seriously. Like we haven't seen a model after model after model from like the same players every month. Like I think we really got to the point where they are all continuously training the models, making them stronger, and like release checkpoints over time, just every couple of weeks. And you just see it, like there are new Gemini models already in testing. And like we got Gemini, I think 2 weeks ago. It's just crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And the thing is that everything is like, things are novel. We didn't have this image generation before. It's not just a little bit better. We didn't have this before. And I didn't even start talking about O3, which is, I don't know, I have 1 day of experience with it, and it's absolutely crazy, in my opinion.
I'm in love. I've used the thing, Yam, to reflect on what you're saying. We do this every week, and we've done this for the past 2 years. And I remember weeks, like GPT-4 was launched, and then 06-13, if you guys remember, GPT-4, with the first one with function calling was a big one. Mistral launched somewhere during the fall, and then a bunch of follow-up fine-tunes, whatever. There has been like a lot of stuff from the community. I don't remember such a insane stream of updates with the big guys just like fighting each other on the arena of attention. And this is how it feels like. This is the arena of attention. You know, it's really funny because of the Transformers thing, but it's our attention, not the model's attention that they're fighting for. And it really does feel like there's a reason why Meta released Llama 4 on a Saturday. That reason is likely because then Google had their own thing in Google Next. And then OpenAI always fights it out with, they're about to release something. And they're fighting for our attention. And we are in the business of, me, Wolfram, Yam, Nistan, like all of us, we're in the business of delivering this news to you guys. And we also need to know about them to deliver this news to you guys. And it's been harder and harder consistently. I'm very happy that we're able to do this as well. Like I said last week, I always, my lady of the heart, I always like, not complain, but like after I summarize everything, I was like, hey, I have no idea how we're going to cover everything this week. Somehow we get to, and we're able to. But it's been consistently more and more and more after our filter. We also filter stuff. Folks, you should absolutely know nobody can deliver everything to you. Like, we don't cover startups, for example. We don't cover valuations, barely, unless it's like Mira Murati's $2 billion supported seed that's like the biggest in the world. We barely cover like sales. We barely cover, we're probably going to talk about OpenAI and Windsurf, but we are not focusing on that part of AI at all. We also don't tell you about tools. We tell you about specifically kind of foundational labs and releases, the things you can do right now. But there's so many tools out there that are also like getting launched every week. Like, I'm using Aqua Voice, for example, and shout out to Aqua Voice, became my new text to speech thing. So there's like just so much that we aren't able to cover, and there's just the stream is crazy. With that said,
follow us on Twitter, follow us on X.
100%. With that said,
even more.
Following Wolfram, following me, Yam, we do talk about those in the ether. It just my point is, it doesn't make the cut to the show, because otherwise it would be a 5-hour show. And if we're summarizing the live streams of this week, we had the 1.5 hour on Monday, 1.5 hour yesterday. That's 3 hours. We're gonna do 2 more today. That's 5 hours of us talking to you folks. So I really, really appreciate everybody who tunes in to this. But also, I do feel, especially with the O3 releases, that it's just like breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough, and it's been incredible to see. So
you can feel the acceleration, but at the same time, we are getting used to it. That is also an effect. So we are getting these great models, and okay, our mind is blown, but we are used to it by now in some way. So we would be even more out of our minds if this was in a vacuum.
I became a goldfish for sure. Like, I do forget the excitement of before. I just posted a thing. Do you guys know the Indian meme where somebody crossed somebody's name? It was like, this is my best friend now. So I did this with O3 as well, because just a week ago, we got excited by, 4.5 a couple weeks ago, right? 4.5, the biggest train of the biggest model that OpenAI ever did. And now it's deprecated, our AP for 4.5, at least in the API. But the thing that I also wanted to say is that we're also accelerating ourselves and our capabilities with these models. Like yesterday, and I will tell you straight up, I used the opportunity to prepare for the show with O3, and O3 has the capability of reasoning over the URLs and reasoning over like searches. And I literally, there's a standard, and you guys already see the standard in kind of the notes that I prepare. O3 helped me through a lot of it, and it was incredible. We're also catching up because we now have access to these tools. And I think it's very important for the audience to also like realize we're not the same as we were 2 years ago as well. Our capacity to process information also increases, which is great. One thing that I don't have yet, and I think in 2025 in April I should have, is agents running all the time and doing things for me. I would like to invite the folks in the audience to tell me if you have agents running all the time. I have agents when I need them, in Windsurf and Cursor and like other places. I really need like ephemeral continuous background agents to like pop up news for me. I do have them in the form of the community folks, like Lincoln, for example. Shout out to Lincoln again, Colleen, and like other folks, Ryan, that I see in the space. And folks are agentic on their own because they're people, and then they post and link and tag, and I can follow them, etc. But I need like specifically trained AI agents to go and do some summaries for me, so that on Thursday I can just show up and just talk about this. I think with this very nice intro and excitement about kind of the speed of improvements, I think we have enough of folks to start with the TLDR. What do you guys think?
Let's go.
All right, so let's go to the TLDR. Basically, TLDR, for folks who are new to ThursdAI, is everything we're going to talk about, or at least that we know of before breaking news, which we love that folks in the audience will just tell us about breaking news. Here's everything that we're going to talk about on ThursdAI that we know of. Alrighty, folks, welcome. You already know this. This is my notes for ThursdAI, April 17th. As a reminder, the show, if you miss any part of the show, you can listen briefly to this 10-minute segment, hopefully 10 minutes, and then remember, I wanted to hear about Kling, and then come back to the show. The show is also posted on every news podcast platform, like Apple and Spotify, and also the newsletter is posted on Substack. Substack. For X specifically, this was for X. And then you can go on Substack and all the links will be there as well. So you don't have to miss anything. You don't have to write anything down. I got you. Just subscribe to the newsletter along with, I think we crossed 6,000 subscribers soon. I think we're very close to 6,000 subscribers, which is crazy. And then very important, do not miss today at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which would be in an hour and 15 minutes or so. We'll have a chat about A2A protocol with Google's Todd Segal. You don't want to miss this. I really am excited about this because A2A is about to be like the biggest news very, very soon. And you heard it here, hopefully first, or maybe one of the first, definitely one of the first interviews about A2A. Today on the show, the hosts are Wolfram and Yam. We may have other hosts joining down the line, distinguished co-hosts of ThursdAI for the past 2 years. It's been great to have you guys as well. We will, of course, start to cover with the major news of this week, maybe this month, maybe the past couple of months, even maybe since December when it was announced. Feels like it. O3 from OpenAI launches. O3 is the flagship reasoner, the biggest reasoner model, test time compute and everything, that was announced in the 12 days of Christmas. And O3 is now available to all of us, I think. And also o4-mini is available in ChatGPT and API. We're going to we covered this for an hour and a half yesterday, but then we played with it since then. Pretty much didn't go to sleep, I think. And we will definitely talk about O3. We'll cover some stuff. I already have some breaking news through Yam. Yam, thank you, about the long context performance, which is insane, absolutely insane. You don't want to miss our conversation about O3. Remember before O3, like months before O3, essentially 2 days before O3, OpenAI also launched GPT 4.1 and 4.1 mini and 4.1 nano. You remember that? That was this week. That was this week on Monday. It's crazy. We also had an hour and a half live stream and coverage, and we must tell you about 4.1 and 4.1 mini. I have some evals. Wolfram, you have some evals. That model is crazy good compared to the fact that it's not thinking. We shouldn't let the thinkers and reasoners take the wind out of it. There's 4.1 mini and the prompting sandwich stuff that we covered. All of those things we absolutely will get super excited about. I'm already getting excited. I should move on because it's just the TLDR. Mistral releases something called the Classifiers Factory. It's pretty cool for developers. We're going to cover this maybe in just a little bit. Anthropic, Claude adds research, not deep research, but they do deep research only for the max paid tier for now. So folks who just pay for Anthropic didn't get this, but I also have a Google Workspace integration. Anthropic Claude can now, through the UI, reason about all your emails or your docs and do a research thing. They didn't call this deep research, but hey, it's effective what it is. And Cohere released a new embed model that's like state-of-the-art multimodal embeddings. We talked about multimodal embeddings before with the folks from Gina, which released it in open source. Cohere releases embed 4. It's now multimodal as well. Multimodal embeddings are great because we are getting multimodal across the board. As we move to open source LLMs, which was less of an exciting week, sometimes it's very exciting. In this category, I think the two more exciting things that are going to come very soon, not this week though, is OpenAI when they finally open source something, and they had an open source event with developers in San Francisco. They're about to drop something that's going to blow us away, and we're going to talk only about this. But also DeepSeek at some point. Where's DeepSeek, folks? We haven't heard from Alibaba Cohen in a while. This category is going to get exciting very, very soon. Not this week, though. This week is all about the big labs, O3 itself. However, there's some stuff. So OpenAI actually open sourced some stuff this week, not models, but they open sourced a new benchmark called MRCR for long context. And they did definitely do breakthroughs with long context, which we're going to cover. Microsoft released BitNet 1.5, which is a small thing we should mention as well. Prime Intellect trained a 32 billion parameter globally distributed reinforcement learning experiment. We talked with Prime Intellect before, so this is Intellect 2, and this is ARL, and they're looking at reasoning there, distributed. We should mention also the Chat GLM, which we've covered. The GLM models is rebranded to Z.AI, depends on if you're British or not. I don't know how to pronounce this. Let's say Z.AI, and they also open sourced GLM 4 o4-14, which is literally from April, and open source family. In this week's buzz, which I now add MCP and now A2A as well to this week's buzz, because this is what I'm leading in at Weights and Biases, we want to mention, first of all, we're going to have a chat with Todd Segal about the A2A protocol. And also I want to mention the Weave Playground support for the latest GPT models is there. And I'll show you how cool it is to use the playground to compare between those models, to maybe even grab one trace from production and then retry this with the new models to see how well it's going to work. I'm going to actually show you this. I recorded the video about this, but it's really, really cool and useful. Vision and video category is also heating up this week. VO2 from Google. VO2, we've talked about VO2. We showed you videos of VO2. Has hit GA, which means that you now can use this. It's free in the Gemini app. It's now free. Google just kind of like gives things for free because they have a lot of TPUs. So VO2 is now free in AI Studio as well. You can just go there. You can upload images. So it's text to video and image to video as well, and combine text and image to video as well. So it's now in GA, and it's one of the best still video generation models. Together with them, for some reason, I stayed up very late one night, and then Kling, the folks, the released multiple video models at this point, have released Kling 2.0, and they also released an image generation model that they claim state of the art on top of other models, and basically a whole creative suite of things in Kling. I would love to show you. It's super, super cool. They're trying to be the holistic place where you go and do all of your AI creation needs from the art perspective. And also, we should chat about ByteDance announced. I don't think they released it yet, but because of the 7B, I assume that they're going to release this. ByteDance publicized Seaweed 7B, a video generation foundational model. There's also one other thing here in video that I didn't add to notes yet, that 1X, the Alibaba video model, has released a last frame, first frame model as well. These models are very useful because you can add the first frame, last frame, and then you can take another video, take the first frame of it, and continue chain them together. In voice and audio, in the most incredible news that I ever heard, maybe, Google released DolphinGemma. And we have to talk about DolphinGemma at least a little bit, because they didn't release this on April 1st. They released it a little bit after, on actual World Dolphin Day or something. Google tackles dolphin communication. And I find it incredible that if this age of intelligence will enable us to talk to other intelligences like dolphins. I chatted with Wolfram that we wanted this whole segment to just make dolphin noises for 1 minute and then see what's up. So DolphinGemma, we're going to chat about this as well. In AI art and diffusion, ByteDance took over the category in artificial analysis, at least, of the image generation models, beating even the Sora generation. From now on, by the way, I refer to ChatGPT's native image capabilities as Sora image, because you can also access it on Sora. And also, I don't want to keep saying ChatGPT native image generation that's not DALL-E. They didn't brand this. So for me, it's Sora images. And then they're incredible still. But according to the few of the artificial analysis leaderboards, Seedream 3 from ByteDance, bilingual image diffusion, is now the top AI art and diffusion model around the world, which is crazy. In the tools section, OpenAI, together with everything, debuted Codex. Codex is a CLI that's very similar to Claude Code that we mentioned before on the show, and we've been using it. Codex previously used to be a model from OpenAI that does code. Since then, obviously, those capabilities were rolled into the main models. So they brought back, and I'm very happy about this, the Codex brand name, and now it's a CLI that I've used this week. It's pretty cool, and we're going to talk about this. The only thing I have here is Codex, is like Claude Code, but actually it's not. And also, the use of O3, I believe o4-mini, N41, and Windsurf is free for the next week. I definitely want to shout out Windsurf. Not to mention that the Varun, I believe his name is, from Windsurf, showed up at the 4.1 event that we've seen. And I was like, that's very interesting. They used to be friendly with Cursor, and now the Windsurf family. And then there's rumors about OpenAI is rumored to buy Windsurf at around $3 billion valuation, which is insane. So Codium, aka Windsurf, there's rumors about this as well. Obviously, to remind, we had Kevin from Windsurf on the show, and we chatted about why Windsurf is so dope. And since then, I've been using predominantly Windsurf. Even though Windsurf pays for my Cursor, I went and paid for Windsurf, and I've been very much enjoying this as well. I believe that this is everything that we're going to cover, hopefully, because also we have an interview for at least like 20 minutes with Todd Segal about A2A. Folks, anything else I missed? Folks in the host panel, welcome Nissan, by the way. Folks who are listening to us. Anything else huge from this week that I missed that we must absolutely cover? And if not, we can get started.
There are so many things we can talk about. Every topic here is I don't know, the model. You talked about agents running full time. You talked about Cursor versus Windsurf. Every single one of these can be like an hour. It's absolutely crazy, the pace. It's great, but it's absolutely crazy.
So speaking of pace, let's keep this show on pace as well, and let's get started with the big companies' APIs, for which I don't have a transition, unfortunately. I wish I had no transition for big companies' APIs, but we will just do this. AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI. And the reason I use the breaking news button is not because we have breaking news from literally right now. It's because it's been breaking. This whole week, it's been breaking. We've been following the breaking news, and we've jumped on live streams that we didn't know about before. Nistan is looking tired because we didn't sleep also. Yes, we have followed the releases from OpenAI, and we'll just cover... I think let's start with the smaller one and then cover the bigger one. That's how it feels to me. Like it's the fair way of doing this. So we briefly mentioned kind of the smaller potatoes in the big companies. Claude adds research, so basically now it does search. Claude historically was very slow to adopt like search to its UI, and then tools, etc. The artifacts was great, and they kind of went first on that. But Claude AI, if you pay for that service, now does research. Like deep research, this didn't call it deep research. It does reasoning across multiple links, and it looks pretty cool. And not only that, they together with this, they added the workspace integration specifically for Google Workspace, so it can reason through your documents, your links, etc. And they're very happy about this. Very interestingly, they released it together with the week where OpenAI also released an eval for deep research, and I haven't seen the comparison yet, and I also don't have access yet. This is not also an API, this is only a UI feature, but it does go and reason about stuff, including your documents, which is pretty cool if you use Claude Max, which is their $200 a month tier.
I see the connected app stuff, and the Gmail search and calendar search. I don't see the research. So I got access to half the features, so I guess.
Yes, I've looked at this, and research is now available, early beta for Max and Team and Enterprise plans in the US, Japan, and Brazil.
Okay.
Listen, not only you're not on Max, I'm assuming, maybe you are, but I'm assuming you're a Plus subscriber. You're also Canadian, which they didn't release it to because... I don't know, Tyler. I don't know. So anyway,
Anthropic has always had like limited DevOps. It's always been a limited release from them.
Yeah, they're struggling. Let's mention this briefly. Mistral Classifiers Factory. Mistral released a cool thing, which I had the link for sure. Let me see. Mistral Classifiers Mistral released Classifiers Factory, which is basically you can build your own classifiers, which are small models that run on their service, and you can build classifiers for moderation, intent detection, sentiment analysis, data clustering. Those are not LLMs. Those are very, very small models that Mistral will host for you, but you can upload very limited amounts of, data in CSV format, and they will train and build this for you, like fraud detection, for example, in financial sector. So if you're a company that absolutely needs super quick and fast classifiers, Mistral Classifiers is for you. It's a very interesting step that's not LLM-y into kind of the world of supporting and guardrails. It's pretty cool. I think it also supports weights and biases to some extent. So if you are a company that needs this service, Mistral Classifiers is for you. Cohere Embed, we briefly chatted about. Let me just show you what they mean. Embed 4 is a multimodal search for businesses. So if you want classifiers and then also multimodal embeddings for your RAG, Cohere 4 is SOTA multimodality. Embed 4, uniquely capable, accurately and quickly searching multifaceted documents, PDFs, etc. Previously, we chatted with Zach Nussbaum, if you guys remember, from Nomic AI, and Zach talked to us about why multimodal embeddings are important. Is because basically when you embed text separately and images and PDF separately, then you have to do a bunch of searches to combine them together. Multimodal embeddings bring this into one embedding space, and so you can pull relevant chunks that have some PDF stuff. Some PDFs are images only. So that's great, and shout out to Cohere for Embed 4. With all of this out of the way, the most important news of this week was absolutely GPT 4.1, 4.1 mini, and 4.1 nano in the API only. So this was a developer release on Monday, and then o3 and o4 mini everywhere. Let's start with this news, GPT 4.1 and 4.1 mini. I want to ask this question to the panel here of folks. Folks, why is it that GPT 4.1 is better than GPT 4.5? So can somebody answer this question to me?
They trained it longer. It's just probably what happened. Like GPT 4.5 Look, I tried to ask it its size and like to estimate for it to guess what its size is, but it's fair to say it's probably the largest in the world. Probably that's the whole claim, and it just takes more to train, and every single step takes way more. It's more expensive, so I assume they didn't train it that long. And obviously, I don't know, GPT 4.1 sounds pretty close to GPT-4. Like probably it's the same model trained much longer on much longer context on much more focused data sets. Because currently we just see by the behavior of the models that the models just the data sets improve. Like the data sets, the evaluations, the things they are doing behind the scenes. You just see it from the behavior of the models that they sit with people and the models become more and more like sharp on the things that you need. So I think that's what is going on. It's just better data and flops. A lot of flops.
A lot of flops, yep.
And, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wolfram,
but look, there is a magic. There is some sort of magic to GPT 4.5, which I'm not sure is only the size. There is some sort of magic. It gets things that no other model can. So I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe scale is all you need. I don't know. Yeah.
Scale is definitely at least part of what you need. I will say to your point, GPT 4.5 has what we got to use to name a big model smell. That's something. That magic is the undescribable thing. Like we have been talking with models for a while. Some of us are able to already get it. And we know it's a big model, and we know because OpenAI essentially deprecated the API and said that GPT 4.5 is coming to its end on the API, which is sad, but it costs them like so much to run because it's a huge model and they haven't distilled it yet. Wolfram, let's do a brief summary of what 4.1 is, why they released it, and then let's talk about some evaluations for 4.1, 4.1 Nano and 4.1 Mini.
Yeah, so 4.1 and Mini and Nano, I tested all three of them. And the interesting thing is that Nano, it wasn't that good, but still better than a lot of models. But the Mini and 4.1, they are so close. That is, if you are budget conscious, then you will use the Mini a lot, I think, because it is so much cheaper and it's very nearby. But if you need the best quality there is, then you will go for 1 or maybe O3 if you want reasoning, or o3-mini, o4-mini. Yeah, it's so many models. You really have to think about which one you want to use. I generally go for the best one. If I'm using the interface, it doesn't cost extra. But when using the API, you really have to think about what do you need. And then you need evaluations for your specific use cases so you can know if the model is good enough for what you want and you don't overpay.
I will say the naming of OpenAI is obviously ridiculous, especially the drop down of the model, especially for folks who don't follow as closely as we do. That's why I opened this with a joke of like, why a joke, but Yam took it seriously and explained it very, very seriously. But like, why 4.5 is like worse than 4.1? Shouldn't models naming be like 4.6, etc.? Yes, Yam, you're correct. It's because of the model sizes. Like, we get it. We get like what 0.5 release means. It's a 10x jump, and a full release is a 100x jump. That's traditionally what used to be. What used to be named, but 4.1 is not a 0.1 jump, but we do feel this. I will say this thing in defense of the naming, let's say, I got confused myself by talking to you guys and generally thinking about this of O4 and 4.0. O4 is 4.0 is confusing the hell out of me. The models that start with O, like O1, O3, and O4 mini right now, they're reasoning models. The 4.0 came from 4.0, like that. We just call it O in English, but like 4.0 is 4.0 basically, like GPT 3.5 and GPT 4, and then sorry, no, I'm completely confusing right now as well. 4.0 is for Omni. Yes, see, it's very confusing. What I will say though, the thing that really confused me in the API as well is that we now have O4-mini and then 4.0-mini. 4.0-mini still exists in the API, however, it's getting deprecated towards 4.1. So we can no longer have to say 4.0 or Omni, etc., because essentially what they just released this week is a drop-in replacement for many folks for the previous 4.0 and 4.0 mini models. So in the
and
API, at
O3
least,
three came after O1 because there's no O2. And so it's so confusing.
yeah, O2. Sam did refer this to as O2 at some point, but then because of the O2 arena in London, and they didn't want to get into the legal fight. Yeah, somebody should buy O17 and trademark it right now, before everybody else. All right, folks. So I just want to run through the actual kind of launch of the 4.1 because we do have to talk about O3 as well. They launched three main kind of like things. GPT 4.1 is the flagship model that replaces GPT 4.0. Essentially, in the API, they're testing it right now. At some point, they will probably deprecate 4.0 in towards this. 4.1 mini is 80% of the cost with like lower latency. Those models are fast. We tested them in Windsurf. They're just flying. And 4.1 nano, which is ultra fast, but honestly stupid. I've tried nano. Nano is not up to par with like essentially anything. However, in tasks that we're testing very serious tasks because we're testing the bigger models. Nano is absolutely great in translation. So if your translation use case is translation, Nano is probably the model for you, and it's going to cost you 1 cent for a million tokens, which is nothing. You can transcribe all of your things. It's probably good at transcription as well. And only,
by the way, that's a great example for there is no chart where you can just look your use case and which model to use. So you have to experiment, find it out yourself. So yeah, you can't even ask ChatGPT which model to use.
Nope.
They didn't even train it.
The models themselves are notoriously bad at telling you about the models themselves.
But
they
O3 can use search now and find it out.
I really had to convince 4.1 that it had 1 million context. It really argued with me that it doesn't. And then like I like told it to use Perplexity MCP just to research how much context it has, and only then it just gave away. All right. But it was like, yeah, they don't know. But it knew that it's 4.1. And that was cool. It knew the name of the model, but it didn't know the feature of itself. So yeah.
The prompts are getting so long. Maybe put that in as well. It doesn't matter anymore with the long context.
Yeah, you are senior model at OpenAI. You have long context.
Coming back, and the thing that Nissan, you just added, the absolute banger thing that we have to talk about, all these three models, is OpenAI's step in to the 1 million context window length. OpenAI traditionally gave us 100K, now all three models are 200K. This is a 1 million context model with low latency, and so absolutely like the nano, for the use cases of nano, for example, there is a lot to do with low latency 1 million context. Absolutely, we definitely should shout out that like even 4.1 nano gets 1 million context at just 1 cent. This is 001. This is 10 cents in and 40 cents out, which is just an absolutely crazy price.
By the way, so you have batch processing now for 4.1, so you can do data sets with just $4 per million tokens. And I generated some medical data. I had 2 different doctors look at it, and this is by far the best model for like doing medical soap notes. But it's just like the styling and the way it describes everything so nicely is just, yeah, I don't know. 4.1 has the best style in responses right now because it's just long enough as well. You could say that Sonnet does give you more data and is actually more detailed, especially if you want conversations. But in terms of giving you a report, this is by far the nicest, and it's been perfect. I did it in 36 languages. I've checked quite a few of them, even random ones, and it's been perfect in every language too. Yeah, it's good. I don't think it's that good at code, but for other stuff, it's by far like the best styling on the data that they had on 4.1. I think that's the best one.
So let's talk about coding focus for this model. They absolutely focused these models and said, hey, these are for coding. They showed us sweet bench that jumped from 33% to 55% from 4.0, nearly close to o4-mini. O4-mini is a reasoning model. This is not a reasoning model. This is like also faster than the reasoning model. Doubles the diff generation accuracy in Aider Polyglot. So they used Aider Polyglot, the kind of the benchmarks that we used to look at for coding, and very very significant boost. Nistin, you don't think it's that good? I honestly will say that I got very excited on stream, you guys remember, with the front-end abilities that they mentioned, that they've trained more front-end UI, etc. on these models. I got maybe perhaps overexcited. Since then, I've tried it in Windsurf because it's free to try in Windsurf. And the website it gave me, I had an idea about the website. It gave me, I will share this website with you very soon once it's live. I think it's pretty cool. But the UI 4.1 gave me was, let's just move on from that point. It wasn't great. I also posted a poll on my X after our live stream about 2 additions that I asked Claude 3.7 to do on the website, and then 4.1. 4.1 actually did a good job there. We all looked at it. It did a decent job. Folks did prefer Claude 3.7, but I think Claude 3.7 is a unique, very eager person that goes and does things that you don't ask it to do. Instruction following upgrade, they also had a internal hard mode instruction evals that they didn't release yet for OpenAI. They saw a 30-point jump in instruction following versus 4.0 and multi-tone consistency as well, rivals Anthropic Claude. It does listen to instructions better. And here we should talk about the sandwich, which I found absolutely ridiculous, and I actually tested this. I actually want to show you. This is not the This Week's Buzz sponsor segment at all. This is literally just me. Wolfram, can you describe the sandwich while I pull up my evals? Because those are crazy.
The sandwich?
The prompt sandwich. We talked about
where
this.
you have something at the top and then you have the context. Yeah. I gave was it OpenAI or Anthropic? Now I'm getting confused again. It's different. Yeah, OpenAI said you should have something at the top, then the context, then the query at the bottom. While at Anthropic they were saying have the context first and then the instructions at the bottom. With OpenAI you sandwich whatever input you have for your query, so you can give it. You could even repeat the instruction at the top and at the bottom to improve it. And as Alex has evaluated and found out, that improves scores tremendously, right? It's
especially
a very noticeable
for mini
difference.
That was the crazy part for me. So 4.1, so again, like Wolfram said, the prompt sandwich technique is you have your instructions, then you have your long context, whatever, and then you have your instructions, again, the same exact ones, and that improved performance. OpenAI released a prompting guide, and somebody from OpenAI also shared their techniques for 4.1. I did not expect this to work at all, but I did not expect this to work this much. So I'll show you what I mean by this much. So you can see, for those who are looking, for those who are not looking, this is my standard eval for the 20 hard to reason about questions. The reasoning models absolutely tear down this benchmark, but still they don't get all 20 of them. This is the question for the ice cube question that we ask. There's a bunch of those here as well. So those 20 questions, I run them all 3 times. Usually non-reasoning models are very bad at this benchmark, and Nano is absolutely bad at this benchmark. On the right here, the 3 models here is a 4.1, 4.1 mini, and 4.1 nano. Nano is getting 1.8% of the questions, 4 mini is getting 31%, and then 4.1 is getting 48%. I know it's confusing just by listening to this. I will share this in the newsletter as well. What you can see on the left, those are the exact same models, just with prompt sandwiching. All I did in this new eval, and this is clarified here by this little sandwich emoji that I have, is I just added the prompt at the end. And you can see that for 4.1, this did nothing. It got exactly the same 48% of questions, exactly the same. But for 4.1 mini, the mini model, the one that costs half and runs much faster, it jumped from 38% to more, to 49% of the questions. This is crazy. The jump is crazy. This is not a reasoning model. They shouldn't be this good at these questions at all. And even for the nano, it improved a little bit by a few questions as well. The biggest jump by far was for the mini one. Mini matches almost beats the regular model with this prompt technique. This is crazy, folks. I don't know if it generalizes to other attempts, but this is absolutely crazy. And then you can see the total tokens that they output is also a little bit bigger. So they actually output more tokens once you ask them to do the same thing, which is crazy. I just wanted to show this. What you're seeing right now is WNB Weave, the product that we have for evaluations. If you don't evaluate your models, how do you know how they will perform in production? This is how I do it. All right, folks, what else about this model that we want to talk about? So definitely worth checking out. The 1 million context window is crazy. I want to chat about the needle in a haystack thing that they posted, and we definitely should move on to O3 very soon. Needle in a haystack is this very incredible, but also very annoying test that Greg Comrade came up with. Greg Comrade, now the president of the ArcAGI Foundation, that just gives the model in a very long context a bunch of random or one random piece of information, and then asks the model to retrieve it from the context, and then test whether or not in long contexts like this works. Most models are now good at this. However, we know that reasoning around long context is not necessarily as correlated as needle in the haystack green fields. However, they did show us that all three models here in the needle in the haystack are absolutely like 100% across the board. They even showed an example. Nista, you remember the example? They had a bunch of logs and then they shoved like a line that's not a log, and the model was able to pull this.
Dude, I just opened it on my non-paid account. I opened ChatGPT, and when you hit switch models, it says GPT-4o, great for most tasks. o4-mini, fastest at advanced reasoning. GPT-4o-mini, faster for everyday tasks. And try again, GPT-4o. How is anybody going to be able to tell?
Here's my guide. Okay, here's my guide. Here's the
hire me
ThursdAI.
to name them.
Yes, here's the ThursdAI official guide.
Or ask AI.
First of all, we're all are available as consultants. You want to reach out to all of us, we'll consult you for, if you're listening to ThursdAI, use the ThursdAI promo for 20% off for our consultancy. That's first of all. Second of all, I'm only partly kidding because really people need support with this. I will just say for coding and building with APIs, 4.1 series of models is now probably the one that you should be evaluating. Trying on 1 million context window at those speeds is crazy. If you're just chatting, o3. If you're just chatting and you're okay with waiting, o3 is by far the best one. If you're building with intelligence, then o4-mini, those APIs are insane. But we didn't get to o4-mini, so for all intents and purposes. If you're just in the UI, there's no reason for you to use the previous models. Just use the top one and wait. The faster for everyday tasks, that's some bullshit. That's just like, you don't necessarily need to. So,
And if you're building something as an engineer, evaluate.
And if you're building something as an engineer, if you don't evaluate on your tasks, then what are you doing? Talk to us at Weights Biceps. We're going to help you because as Wolfram's title is AI evaluator and at Elamind, if you're not evaluating your models on production, you may be hurting performance. You may even don't know that like your tasks are not getting done. So back to needle in the haystack, OpenAI also showed that they've evaluated the long context performance on the million tokens on a new MRCR benchmark, and they also open sourced the MRCR benchmark, which I believe was Anthropic's first or somebody else's first, and then they kind of like improved on it. It's on Hugging Face right now. It's open source on the same day, and they show great retrieval across the full 1 million window for all the three models, which is great, even nano. So that's like very good from OpenAI to also release some benchmarks because evaluation on long context is difficult. Multimodal gains, they claimed state-of-the-art on video MME, which is a long context understanding of video by pasting in frames by frames, and long context QA on video. They claim state-of-the-art on this with 72% for 4.1 mini. Mini is a great model. Do not sleep on Mini. I think that Mini is better than 4.1 in many cases. They also fine-tunable from day one, which is great for folks because you can upload some stuff and then get your model specifically for your use cases. And then I think that's basically it that I want to mention. Windsurf has it for free for the next week. I think I know why now. But also, I think Cursor followed suit, and Cursor also has it for free for the next week or something. It's very interesting as a let's get users in the door. The new model releases, they're like, here, use it for free for a week. They also want to evaluate this as well, right? They want folks to tell them feedback.
By the way, if you were a Windsurf user in the beginning and you stopped using it like I did, you still, at least yesterday, you could still get the early adopter pricing, which was $10 instead of $15 per month if you lock it in now.
Yeah, absolutely. I will just shout out this prompting guide from Noah McCallum, that he has been working with GPT 4.1 for agentic workflows and chain of thought. You can prompt these models for chain of thought. Don't forget, the new O-series models and the thinking models, they have chain of thought built in. But the previous trick still works for these models. You can ask them to think. And when they think, they get better. And when you ask it in the prompt sandwich, they get better even still. So definitely, you can ask the model to spend more time understanding user intent. That helps. Start with simple instructions. And at the end of your prompt, as the model is already quite good at thinking through problems. Long context, the suggestion. So basically, we'll add this prompt guide as well. They actually... this is his thread, but they actually added prompt guides in the docs as well. All right, folks, moving on to the main course of this week. this month, maybe this quarter. OpenAI yesterday, I really want to hit this breaking news button again, but I'll just do this. OpenAI yesterday released, finally, to all of us, the flagship reasoner model, probably the best model right now in the world across pretty much everything that LLMs do, o3 and o4-mini. Let's go! And we were here, right here, watching the live stream, and we were very, very excited to try these models. Folks, what do we think? Yam, what do we think about o3? It's been less than 24 hours.
Wow. It is really, really good. No, seriously. I don't know what they trained it on. I really don't know. I have a guess, but I really don't know what they trained it on. And I don't know where to even start. I have so many examples. Like every tiny thing you do, it just knows stuff. Like I don't know. It just knows so many tiny things without even before even talking about going online and searching them, which is also crazy. Like you can direct it to go to URLs, specific sites, and it's just a crazy release. Seriously, crazy release, and I can't wait for o3 Pro. Really, it's a crazy model.
It's a crazy model across pretty much everything. I agree. I've used it exclusively. Here's a few of the things in the announcement. Like, it's going to be hard to cover everything, but here's a few of the things in the announcement. This model, I think, is unique by reasoning across tool use. It uses tools while reasoning to come out with answers. So one example that we've tried yesterday on the show is the cowboy example of generate an image of a cowboy that on his hat is the 5 last digits of the hexadecimal code of the MMMU score of Gemini 2.5. I think this was the full prompt. Now, what I said is a mouthful, but basically there's like a 4-point tasks in there, including tool use. It needs to go and figure out the MMMU score for Gemini 2.5. And then it needs to use the coding tool to convert this into...
to figure out the model. We didn't even tell it which model it was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The latest model for Gemini series, right there. So it needed to figure out this. So it actually went and searched on this Eastern. Oh, no, I actually need to go and search this. Then it got the actual score. Then it used the tooling code to convert the score into hexa. Then it used the image generation feature tool, etc., to generate this image. It was crazy because it did 7 steps and 4 searches, and then it like thought about the searches, and then it's, let me reason about this thing. It was crazy. And this is not even the thing that Yam is talking about that he's excited about, because the knowledge that this model already has is great, is what Yam is referring to. This is in addition to the knowledge, in addition to the training, in addition to everything else it does, it knows it can also do stuff like go and look up things live when it needs to, reason about them, go and look again. I will just say our excitement about deep research. Deep research has been out for a while, and we've been using this, and then you had to pay $200 a month for it, and then it came to the users. Deep research was powered by o3. Deep research is incredible, but I don't want deep research for everything that I do. I want the model to react faster, and this is what o3 kind of unlocked for me. o3 unlocked for me the ability to do mini deep research, not shallow deep research, let's say, on a very specific topic, reason about this, see if you have enough of the understanding, and then bring it back to me. And that's been the biggest unlock for me. It reasons across tools. It uses tools during its reasoning process to then give you an answer that's much, 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 much better than anything out there, which was absolutely incredible.
It's my new default model, and we are just starting to get to know it. But I don't know if it's controversial or not if I'm saying this. I want to hear your opinions as well. Please. But I think the jump from what we had before to o3 now is bigger than like GPT 3.5 to GPT-4. I think the capabilities it unlocked, I could imagine that this is even a bigger step forward, and we will notice over the coming weeks.
I'm with it. I don't think it's controversial. Yam, go ahead, react, but I'm with this.
Sure, I think 3.5 to 4 was insane, and this is a huge jump at the moment. No question about it. But think GPT 3.5. think about it to the end. Like, come on.
It was smarter, but it didn't do much more.
I think the capabilities unlock is massive here, and I think
the
fact that
on this one.
Nissan, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I'm with you on this one. The 4 jump was insane. That was on another.
You know what? Here's how I'll tie break this debate that we're having, which is great, which I love, but we don't often get debates here on ThursdAI. 3.5 to 4 didn't massively have a capability jump. It was an intelligence jump, but not capability jump. 4 didn't come up with new tools that we got to play with immediately. 4 did come up with image understanding that we waited for 4 months until we got 5 months. I remember, Greg showed it, and we didn't get it for a long time. This plugged into the ecosystem of tools and the things that we're used to, and does them on the next level. So reasoning across tools, the tools we already have, is happening on the next level. I think for normies, for people who are just using stuff, this will be a significantly more of an unlock. While we did get super excited about GPT-4 back then because it was significantly better than 3.5 in everything that we had access to. So I think that overall, it will feel like it should have felt for folks back then, but it took a while for folks to get into. Let's talk about some of the actual stuff in the O3 announcement. State of the art across everything. AIME, code forces, SweetBench with tools. SweetBench gets 64%, 69% on SweetBench. The previous state-of-the-art models with tools, with multiple spans, one of them for weights and biases, another one is from Blake. They beat us by 1 point. This is 5 points above all of the O1 based tools. It's crazy good at coding. It's crazy good at reasoning about coding. SweetLancer, which is a eval from OpenAI that uses Upwork based tasks and measures them based on how much money the model can make the money. O3 High, which is O3 with a high reasoning effort, which you can provide reasoning efforts to both these models, O4-mini and O3, scores $65 earned. On top of O1 got 28,000, O3 got 65,000. So double, more than double. On this performance, on real-world Upwork tasks that users do and developers do. Aider Polyglot is just basically, I think it's not worth repeating even. It's state-of-the-art across every evaluation that they tried. It's state-of-the-art across every evaluation that we saw. One interesting thing, Yam, I wanted to bring this up. I saw this on your X first, so I wanted to shout this out. It's ridiculous at long context performance. Did you guys see this? I don't know if Nistan, you and Wolfram, you had the chance to check this out. Let me try to pull this up here. It's ridiculous at long context. There's this fiction live bench for long context deep comprehension. So we know that we just talked about the 4.1 models that are great at the internal benchmarks, MCRC benchmark. This fiction live bench shows just performance across long context all the way up to 120K. And if I zoom in here, and if I actually show this to you first, and then zoom in here, you can see that the previous biggest winner of this very difficult table to parse, at 120K, the previous winner was Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental, the model that Google just released. It started with 100% comprehension, drops to 97 at 4K, and then goes and degrades. At 120K, it's still at 90%-ish. Among other models, you can see the degrade in performance. Even in 4.0 latest, it drops down to 65. 4.1 mini drops to 62, despite the things. O3 is 100% across all these long contexts, across 4K, 8K, 16, and 16 gets 88. I don't know why. But then at 120K context, it's still at 100%. This model absolutely slaps at long context, which is also crazy. And this is additional one of the things for O3. Yeah.
I have a question. Can you actually use that on the app? Can I just dump in 900,000 tokens like I can in Gemini, and will it respond?
That's something that you should test right now and let us know.
Let's test. Let's find out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really easy to find out.
What I love about ThursdAI is not only that we have the answers for you, that we also have the questions, and then we are trying to do some stuff. But yeah, we should absolutely test this. The thing
it only has 200K context maximum.
Yes, O3 only has 200K context, Nissan. It doesn't have 1 million yet. The thing that I got excited about the most is... and the thing they showed it, is this model, because it has access to tools and reasoning, one of the cool things it can do is zoom in on images to read more. Did you guys see this? Did you guys catch this? That was crazy. That was crazy. You can upload an image, a very long one, and say, hey, zoom in and read this. And this feels to me like sci-fi, like nothing else feels like sci-fi, because the model can like zoom in and read and understand the stuff. Because we are used to visual language models, VLMs, whatever, just receiving a, let's say, multi-resolution image. It used to be that you have to provide it the specific ratio. Now they have patching, they all break down, etc. They apply the vision headers, but all of them consume the image as an image. And if you want the image, one part of it, you crop it before you upload. This model can like zoom in and crop for its own and extract like different pieces, which is absolutely crazy. You're muted.
Bro, I told you to go and get GPU prices over time per device, per type, and like just gather the data from somewhere on the internet and just make a plot of each GPU over time. And it just did that. It's just crazy. Like the thing that like when they have like in the UI this tiny Python thing that it can just run stuff, do things on the fly, it's just crazy. It's just crazy to see just how much a tiny tool can add to whatever model that is using it. One thing to note, I am running pretty sophisticated agents locally, and the jump between GPT 4.0 and 4.1, and not even speaking about o3, just in terms of the willingness to use tools is crazy. Like the amount of agentic capabilities between the models, the jump is insane. And it's not just every model could understand the output of a tool. Some models can also pick the right tool to use, but in a loop, like over and over again, you need to pick a tool, look at the output, infer what you're going to do next. Like in a loop, like errors accumulate really fast. Really, really, really fast. If the model is not trained to do that, like before 4.1, I think the only model that could sustain repeated agent over time was Claude 3.7. But now all the new models from OpenAI absolutely can do it, and it's a huge jump in performance. And so what I think is going to happen is what you see now in the UI is just the start. Like there are going to be MCPs in there. They're going to be like crazy things embedded in the UI. Like today, power users, us do it locally with their own setups, MCPs, and so on. Like everyone has their own. I think the way it goes now is that people have local setups and people just go to extreme length on YouTube, people building extreme things locally, like thousands of MCPs, gathering them on. It doesn't, but it's a small subset of people who are willing to do this. We are going to see things like this automatically in the UI, services that automatically just, based on the context at the moment, automatically like inject MCPs throughout the conversation. So you won't need to think. There's so many things that we are going to see. They're going to be absolutely crazy. And what we see now is just the start. So I think people don't realize that that's just the beginning. Like you have a model that can surf online and search the internet, and that all of them are going to be able to do this in really short.
I will say that for o3, the one thing that we should mention, that the tool use that we currently see in the UI is not available in the API yet. They're still working on this, and hopefully that will also come with MCPs, but the tool running API is not available just yet, but it's coming very, very soon for o3. For 4.1 models, absolutely. They can use your tools that you provide them. The highlight of this model to me is that like reasoning across tool use and then coming back with a response. Additionally, it's also state-of-the-art and multimodal. And one of the reasons why it's state-of-the-art and multimodal is because it can manipulate images and do things and rotate them and zoom in and do a bunch of stuff. So Math Vista and MMU and like all of these things, even without tool use, it beats. I will say this, when it does use the Python tool, the AIME stuff, like the competition math, is solved at 100% for these models. It crushes like all of these things. If it uses Python, like it's not just reasoning, it just like uses them across the board.
I just want to say about resolution images. One thing I noticed is that I run local agents, and one of the things I do is just give them screenshots of my computer because I want them to see what I see, and there is the code in there and so on. What I saw is until recently, only Claude could see and actually read what is on my monitor because of the resolution. It's not just being the state of the art, and I'm just throwing it out there in case I don't know if 4.1 is already capable of doing this, but I'm just saying that to the people behind the scene, make sure that the resolution is enough, because some people like myself are going to throw in a pretty large resolution and are willing to pay for the tokens if the model can absolutely read the code and be like a sidewinder throughout the day and help me out just by looking at the screen. So just make sure that the resolution is also something that people need to take into consideration. But yeah, everything I just said might be nonsense, because it might just be the state of the art with high resolution. I just didn't test it yet, but it is a point. Like, it is something that people need to take into consideration.
One thing, Wolfram, you mentioned this at the live stream as well. The cost efficiency for reasoning is also improved. It's not only that these models like replace O1, which is O1 is deprecated, folks. RIP O1 models. Greg Buckman said that they will be deprecated, but they're cost efficient at reasoning as well. On AI.me, they actually showed us like estimated inference costs, and these models perform better while also being cheaper. So we're getting advancements in intelligence, but also getting advancements for cheaper as well. So O3 is cheaper than O1 was. We also got told that O3 Pro is coming. Moving on a little bit. The continuation of the test time compute scaling is just beautiful to see. The more compute is spent on training the models, the better it gets at AI.me 2022 and 2023, which we saturated already. These AI.mes are getting to 90% solving rate without tools, without the math, without the Python, just by reasoning through them. We're getting to saturated AI.me. We need harder benchmarks. Humanity's Last Exam, for example, was foolishly named as Humanity's Last Exam. And I foolishly, because Scale AI leaderboard showed that O3, just let me show this as well. The O3 just like absolutely crushed it on Humanity's Last Exam with 20%. When Humanity Last Exam just launched, they're like, I would be surprised if models pass 5%. And O3 High is at 20% on Humanity's Last Exam. I think by end of this year, Last Exam will also be like saturated. What else? What else can we say about O3 that we haven't said already? Nissan, I haven't heard from you about O3 at all.
I haven't tested it that much other than from single shot data gen stuff. So that's why I don't know. And in that case, I did find sometimes it made stuff up. And so in general, if it's a one-off, I prefer the answer from 4.1. But if you have something that's a lot more complex and that's multi-step and that has a lot more, I don't know, like technical stuff or calculations to do, it's definitely gonna be better. Yeah, I don't know. I prefer the answer style of 4.1 even over 0.3, and I did quite a bit of A/B testing on that myself. It's not like they were far off, but yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I've covered most of it, folks. Let me run through the notes and see if there's anything detail-wise, and then we can move on to open source. Because, like I said, if you want our full 2 hours, we did this yesterday. And then let's talk about Codex in the context of this as well, even though it's in tools. OpenAI also released. So Codex is a CLI tool from OpenAI that basically in command line, you can ask this model to go and do stuff for you. And it has access to the repository. It also has sandboxing access to the repository, to the folder. So you can actually run this with auto accept and not be scared that it won't auto accept anything that like has to do with going to the internet. It won't auto accept anything in other directories. So it actually uses like sandboxing very well to let you be very okay. Like I know some of us who are listening, YOLO moding on like Windsurf and Cursor and whatever, and just have the model do whatever you want. Don't do this with maybe DeepSeek. Maybe do this with the OpenAI models before you go to DeepSeek and YOLO mode. But OpenAI released a way for us to trust what happens with YOLO mode by just sandboxing this to the folder, which is pretty great. I think it uses some macOS APIs for this on macOS as well. Codex is also open source, which is every time open source from OpenAI, they get applause. We're waiting for the open source models But meanwhile, we got a bunch of actual open source from OpenAI, folks. They gave us like the evals, like the MCRCA, and they gave us another evals. They also open sourced Codex fully. And okay, we're getting a question from somebody like, can we explain what a CLI, how the CLI works? I think maybe we'll just show an example. I think this is the best way to do it.
Oh yeah, I can speak about this for hours if you really, really want. There is a lot to talk about this. There is a lot. So
let's have you get started, and then I'll set up my thing, and we'll actually show something.
Basically, it just goes like this. For people that don't know, a month ago, Anthropic released Cloud Code, and it's just insane. Seriously, Cloud Code is insane. But we're going to talk about Cloud Code in a moment. Okay, basically, you ask things on command line, like you just go Claude and just ask whatever you want as if you're talking to it through the UI, and it has permissions to run stuff and do things on your computer. It basically has your computer. Like it can run tools, it can edit files, it can do what it wants, and it just runs in a loop and try to like do what you told it to do. The thing about Cloud Code is that it is really good. So absolutely great, like absolutely great release by OpenAI. So thank you very much. Seriously.
Of course, also Cloud Code doesn't use O3. And this has built-in native use of O3, not without the tools used yet, but it does think about things. So for 39 seconds, they thought about this repo that I don't remember that I installed. A user asked about repo's purpose. You can see the thinking here as well. In short, this repository fully featured AI agent called Winston. It lets you chat with a large language model assistant. It understood all of this from the repo and the code and the README, and it showed you like how it works. Basically, an AI coding agent together with you in the CLI that you can install via NPM, and then it's open source so community can contribute. I already saw that folks are starting to add MCP support by the way, with Codex itself. Codex adds Codex support to MCP. Shout out to Jason who's been on the show, and supposedly this will land as well. Super, super cool. Nistan, one last thing that you wanted to add about this, and let's move on to open source.
Yeah, just please, people, when you run these kind of command line tools, please stop, make a new account on your Mac. Don't just do it. Don't just put it on your own thing, because it can access your Signal chats if it's on your own Mac, and it can actually see your attachments. And I was going to vibe code something to show that. So make a new account, make a non-admin user, use that
Codex
account.
Codex cannot listen.
It can go in the files. I'm gonna. That's a whole other conversation, but I'm gonna show it. Okay. So we can save that for some other time.
At least according to what OpenAI promised you, at least the auto accept mode happens.
It's pretty good, but look, you're leaving that vector open. So please just make a non-admin account, and then that non-admin account does not have access to your main account on Linux or on Mac. I don't know.
I would listen about this. We, as a responsible news outlet, need to warn you about the fact that these models running on your thing can be, especially if you use MCPs, and MCPs can be like injected with some prompts. They definitely you should be aware of what can happen. I will also probably say that most of the YOLO people who listen to us will not do this.
So they're not going to do it.
Yeah, we absolutely need to tell you. Look, folks, I think we're out of time for the big companies and APIs. I think we covered everything very, very well. Folks who are listening to us, if you have any questions about O3 that we haven't covered yet, or you have use cases or prompt techniques or anything else, definitely let us know in comments. We would love to hear about this as well. I will shout out, I see Sam listening to us, Sam Peach, who's now in the Twitter space, has the EQ Bench eval, and then show that O3 is also one of the best at creative writing as well. That's also crazy, folks. You should also know about EQ Bench, we talk about, and creative writing. O3 is also great at creative writing. I don't see things that O3 is not better than other models. Maybe speed and o4-mini, which we barely covered, but may in fact be the hidden gem of this release. O4-mini is also crazy in a lot of things, and like much faster and cheaper as well. And
sorry, who is it that wrote the EQ Bench?
Sam Beach. I will add his.
Yeah, I just.
Sam.
Yeah, I want to look at that.
I'll add the EQ Bench.
I just want to say, there are some opinions online that the model was rushed, and because there are some crazy hallucinations that people saw that didn't happen on other models. There are some vibes on some of that you some of the answers are questionable, you can say, but it's a huge release. I just want to a little bit more balance, just to give a stage to some other opinions. So if you care about, just go check it out, because probably there is a price to pay for cramming these hard so many tokens in training. People are investigating that as well. One last thing about the command line tools. I just want to say to everyone, it's not just about coding. For me, I went a little bit far with this, but for me, it really changed the entire way I use with models in the last month. I used nearly all models through the command line tools, just because, think about it, they can now access Perplexity and then go online and then check my computer. Like I can ask much more general things that no other agent or client can do, especially not something that is running on your computer for mundane things. Like, did I check my calendar, like what meetings I have today, like how can I organize my desktop? Like I have too many files, and mundane things, and it's like, really go and look into that, even if you're not a developer. Like those things are crazy powerful, seriously.
All right, folks, we're moving on to open source because I think we covered everything. This has been a big week for big companies and APIs in the AI world. I think it's time for us to chat a little bit about open source, and then we're going to have a chat with Todd very, very soon. And I know, Nistan, you need to duck out earlier this one, so cheers, and we'll see you next one.
I actually had a call at this stuff, but yeah.
Oh, you already had one.
Yeah, and I realized I know Sam from Twitter. Okay, it's eqbench.com, and it has a lot of the open source models too. It's actually a pretty good site. Yeah, we need more models up in there though. I know the main ones are, but yeah.
All right, folks, we're starting with open source. Open source AI, let's get it started. Alrighty, we're going to get started with open source. There's not a ton of updates here, so we're not going to spend as much time as we usually spend on open source, although we do love open source here. Let me just share my other screen. Let's chat about the stuff that we have in open source. First of all, we chatted a bit about this, but OpenAI did open source something. They open sourced multiple things. Codex is open source, and we heard from Sean that it already got a bunch of PRs in less than 24 hours, which open source rules. 60 PRs merged in less than 24 hours, so it's absolutely crazy. But also, we saw from OpenAI an open source of MRCR, long context benchmarks. And we're going to actually take a look at how this looks, and it's pretty cool. This data set there's tests for long context benchmarks, and then desired index, total messages, blah, 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 blah. It has 2.4 thousand rows that they've selected from the MRCR. I think, I mistaken before. I thought there was like Anthropic. No, the MRCR first introduced by Gemini, and then OpenAI expanded the task difficulty and provides open source data for producing results. So this task that used to be just a paper now has arrived as an open data set from OpenAI, and it looks like this: user assistant, user assistant, user assistant. And then they have conversations for two needles in haystacks, whatever. And then they ask very difficult questions like, which was the second one? Which was the second story that the user talked about, like rocks, for example, or tapirs? They love tapirs. For some reason, tapirs, the animals, they love them. They mentioned them on the live stream as well. So basically, the benchmark works by asking the model like difficult questions. They're not only needle and haystack questions. It's contextual questions within multiple conversations as well. So that's very cool. So if you want to build a leaderboard of MRCR, you're more than welcome to, because this eval is now built in. If you want to use Bits and Bytes Weave for it, you can absolutely do so as well. Also in open source, we have Microsoft releasing BitNet v1.5, or assumably quietly a little bit. Yam, can I tap on you to explain BitNet just a little bit in like a sentence? Nistan, one of you wants to take this one?
I have to go in 3 minutes, so I'll just make it quick. The thing about BitNet that gets people very excited is that on a chip you can just, when you have like the 1.5 bit, when you have ternary operators, so either not 0 and 1 but three ones, you can just use addition instead of multiplication to do the matrix multiply. So in theory, it should have some great improvements when chips are made. I just want to say about this release first, I really appreciated that they finally put the effort to train it all like that. But I do want to address some misconceptions that people have about what happens on a BitNet. If you look at the GGUF file that Microsoft released on their Hugging Face, you can see that it's a 2.4 or 2.7 billion parameter model, but the GGUF file ends up being 1.8 gigs. And this has been the major issue with BitNet, is because the last weight, the big one, the output weight, is kept in F16. Otherwise, the model deteriorates. And the token embedding weight is kept in F16. So while the rest of the model is in ternary, the last weight is in float 16, and the last weight ends up being bigger than the whole model itself. So when you actually calculate how many bits per weight it has, it's more like 7. And that doesn't make it as impressive for the benchmarks in the end. Now, if they move to a 4-bit output weight, or maybe a 2 or 3-bit output weight, and then had the rest of the model in ternary, then that would be closer to a true BitNet. But there is no real BitNet yet that's all ternary. That just does not exist. This is a big misconception that people have about BitNets in general.
Thank you, Nistan.
Yeah,
and I know you have to jump. Thank you so much for dropping some knowledge about BitNet, folks. Very quick 2 open source updates here. Prime Intellect trained a 32 billion parameter model that is with RL, with reinforcement learning, globally distributed, completely globally distributed, which is super, super cool. And we've talked about Prime Intellect. We also talked about News Research's attempt in a similar thing as well. Intellect 2 is launching the first globally distributed 32 parameter model with RL and reasoning as well. It's called Intellect 2. I don't know if we can actually use this, but they broke down the whole system, and I think it's very cool that we are now at the edge of distributed training that people from home can join as well. So just wanted to shout out Prime Intellect super quick. And I think the last one here is ZAI. Previously ChatGLM released GLM 4 and really good. I haven't seen very state-of-the-art updates from this. However, they claim performance on the 32 billion parameter performance is claimed to be very close to Qwen 2.5 72B. And they have special RLs for math and code and long-form analysis. They did release this in MIT license, which is shout out to ZAI for this release. And they released a bunch of checkpoints from 9 billion all the way to 32 billion parameter. GLA is great for code generation, function calling, etc. And so shout out to the rebrand and the parity of a much larger 72 billion parameter model on MMLU and GSM, etc. and human eval. Right, folks, we have a bunch other things to cover. Specifically, at the end of the show, we'll cover the video model super quick. But for now, we're moving on this week's Buzz. And this week's Buzz will have an interview with Todd Segal as well. So let me just say hi to Todd super quick. Hey, Todd, welcome to the show. Your first time here. And
hi there. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming up. And we will start with the segment that I call This Week's Buzz, that we talk about everything in Weights and Biases. And this news comes, and you come into the show as well from that perspective, because Weights and Biases is a launch partner for the A2A protocol, which I'm very, very excited to chat about with you as well. So we're going to switch over to This Week's Buzz, cover something super quick, and then we're going to have a conversation with Todd Segal from Google that works on the A2A protocol. Let's go. Hello, folks. Welcome to This Week's Buzz, a category in ThursdAI. I talk about everything that happens and new and super cool with the show sponsor, Weights and Biases, right? And as you all know, I'm an AI evangelist there. This means that I talk about models, I host the show, but I also talk about the cool features that we have. And Weights and Biases, if you're a frequent listener of the show, you know that we have a product called Weave, which is LLM observability and evaluation, which is very important. When weeks like this happen, when weeks like today happens, when every model releases and you're like, oh no, what model can I use? We are now supporting the newer models in the playground of Weights and Biases. Playground is a place where you can compare based on the production traces that happened on your traces on production in your app, in your agent, you can go in there and say, hey, I want the same call, the same agent call, etc. I want to try this with a different model, including the whole state that the agent came to. You just switch the model and compare between them and say, hey, what would have happened if I had this agent run on O3 or Gemini, etc. And Written Biases Playground is absolutely now supporting of all of those. I will show you this later on because I don't want to delay. The other thing that happens with weights and biases is obviously also that we have lunchtime support of the A2A protocol. A2A is a protocol release from Google and a bunch of supporting partners. We're just one of, I think, 50 or so supporting partners, launch partners for the A2A protocol from Google that is all about agent-to-agent communication. And we mentioned this last week when the protocol kind of came out and we launched support. And I wanted to go deep into this because I think that it's very important. And I really got to reading across the protocol, started to think about like the internet of agents that's coming up to us and how this will affect this. Obviously, we're all into MCP as well. And so in order to understand the differences, in order to chat deeply about the A2A protocol, I have here Todd Segal from Google. Todd, welcome to the show. This is your first time here. So for folks who don't know who you are, would you do a brief introduction, please? And then we can chat about the stuff that you're working on.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. I've been listening to your show a bit. I was unaware it was on video until just now. This is a nice surprise for me. My name's Todd Segal. I work at Google. I work on AI protocols. So I'm working on MCP and A2A and connecting enterprise information and personal information, et cetera, with agents. So the systems around agents.
So you mentioned the aforementioned elephant in the room, let's say, because many people reacted with kind of bewilderment about MCP specifically. First of all, we should mention Google came out with, we're supporting MCP protocol publicly. I think both Sundar and where am I blanking? Demis Hassabis both said like MCP, we support MCP. There's a bunch of examples, cookbooks, etc. There's going to be more support, I'm assuming. And you mentioned that you're working on both of them. And then when A2A came out, and I saw an immediate reaction of folks who did not go to the spec website, did not read the section that says, here's how A2A is complementary to MCP, and just reacted like, why do we need our protocol? MCP is all around the timeline. So maybe let's start there. Maybe that's a good point for us to start. What is the A2A protocol and how is it different from the MCP protocol that people are getting very, very excited about?
Yeah, so in a short summary, we see MCP and A2A is complementary. We see MCP is for connecting agents with tools, and A2A is for connecting agents with agents. Tools are structured and they're for very specific purposes, and you have very precise control over them. They do a very specific thing and they do it very well, and they often do it deterministically. Agents are much more unpredictable and they can do things you didn't know about, and also your interaction with an agent can change over time.
Interaction with the agent can change over time, which is a very interesting attack vector that I saw for the past week, that people are very worried that the MCP tool announcement when you just installed the MCP tool is one, and then there's like this stuffing attack that like people can change the definition of the tools, but you already installed the MCP. So the follow-up question here would be, do you guys not foresee, or maybe you foresee it differently while thinking about the A2A, that agentic tools will also expose themselves via MCP? Because technically I could do this. Not only this, and I don't want to push on this point like too hard MCP as A2A. I want to talk about A2A. I just like want to understand like deeply. MCP also has this summary survey protocol that you can ask the LLM chatbot, etc., to complete stuff for you. So MCP does technically expose a little bit of agentic capabilities, although I haven't seen those implemented yet. Sampling, I think it's called. Do you not foresee that MCP will like also host agentic tools specifically? And is this your attempt to say and draw the line in the sand and say, hey folks, for tools, MCP should be like stateful tools, etc., maybe API calls, but agents are like a different category of a beast, and it should be treated differently as well?
Yeah, I think there's a few different concerns, and different actors are interacting with them. On the agent to agent side, I think we have it structured more like services. Agent A talks to agent B and says, I need help booking a trip. And that can go a lot of different directions. There can be questions coming back and forth from the agent. There can be asked for more information. There can be asked to, show me a picture of somewhere you'd like to go. Give me your time constraints. Give me your budget. and then all sorts of unstructured information passed back and forth. That's extremely hard to model specifically in a tool. So we really do see it as a application and a remote application delegation protocol. Compared to MCP, you want the model to have exact knowledge over the very specific capabilities and have the model be able to reason and call tools with very specific parameters. So we see it really as a model level protocol on the MCP side. We think it's named very appropriately, and then an application level protocol on the A2A side.
Application level protocol. I love that. Okay. One of the things that got me excited, which I know for a fact that when I provide my agents with tools, my chatbot with tools via MCP, I do the discovery. Me as a developer, I kind of I know what it needs to, or I think I know what it needs to. And then we recently saw a few attempts of the MCP for MCPs, for example, but that kind of scares me because I don't think that MCP was built for this. I even remember a chat on Latent Space with David Sora and some of the folks who work on the MCP, that they also think of tools as a very specific thing. They don't recommend the tool that does all of it. They recommend to scope it down so that your context will have limited editions. One of the things that I got very, very excited about A2A is the registry concept. Could you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah. One of the reasons we built A2A is we see people building a lot of really specialized agents and going really deep in building these specialized agents. So domain-specific agents that have all sorts of custom expertise built into them that use custom reg sources and custom tools and private APIs and private data that isn't exposed publicly outside of the domain specialist. So with that, having some sort of centralized repository that you can register all the agents in, or that a web crawler could access all the agents, and then having some sort of service where you could say, hey, who is the best expert to solve this sort of task and to interact with me? It's a much more similar to trying to hire a human to do a specific job, trying to hire a specific contractor, trying to hire a specialist in a specific category versus getting access to all of the specialist tools. I'm not good at building things with my hands and installing them. I'm going to hire a person for that. So giving me the tools that the specialist use is not going to be useful to me.
Yep. Let's get a little bit technical here. Could you talk about how that communication happens? How does my agent talk to this registry? What the schema looks like under the hood? What do you use? How do you envision this world where my agent would go and ask a marketplace of agents, ideas, etc.? First of all, is it a centralized registry? Will there be multiple registries that you consider? Will you guys provide one? And then actually how the conversation happens. We'd love to hear those details.
Yeah, so the agent registry is something that's on our roadmap. So it's definitely enabled by the protocol right now, but it's not something we've released yet. So right now with A2A, an agent publishes a card. Think of it like a business card or a resume or a capabilities card, where the agent can describe the sorts of things that it can do, examples of how to interact with it, the types of modalities it speaks. For example, you can send me images, you can send me documents. I need to reply in an iframe. I need to reply with a video frame, things like that. The idea is something that's coming on our roadmap is there's going to be many registries. I think public registries are interesting. Registries like robust.txt, where web crawlers can find agents, or your browser can find agents that are available on your website as well. And then also having things like app stores or agent stores or agent gardens, where private agents or curated agents curated by yourself or by your organization or your team, et cetera, those are going to pop up within companies as well. And so that's something that we're actively looking at. That registry service where you have multiple agents, we are looking at how in the agent card can we interrogate each agent and say, hey, who is best equipped to handle this specific task, especially when you have agents that can perform overlapping tasks or things that sound similar, even though they may be dealing with different contexts.
So one example would be an enterprise who uses GitHub and GitLab interchangeably and they have agents for both, for example. But GitHub and GitLab could be examples of tools, right? So agents are more things that can go and perform multiple tasks and then come back. I want to talk about the tasks protocol as well. There's also the async and sync example, right? Agents can go off on a long tangent. How does the protocol handle the tasking and async and come back to me with an answer, especially in the era of we're looking at Gemini as a reasoning model, the 2.5, O3 is a reasoning model. Those reasoning models take longer. They do agentic things as well. Once agents are built on top of these, so it just takes longer to execute tasks. How does the A2A protocol handle asynchronicity and task handling and offloading?
Yeah, 8A was originally designed for these really complex, long-running tasks. So things like, hey, I want to place an order with the store wants to ask you questions. You ask questions back and say, oh, can I get a discount on this? The store then says, I have to check with the manager, and that may take a day, or they have to contact a part supplier, or they have to contact someone else to figure out what to do. And this could take place over not just seconds, but it could take minutes or hours or days or weeks, something like repairing a car or booking a very complicated trip that has many vendors involved in it. And so with respect to that, yeah, there's a central abstraction called a task. So it's a stateful entity. It represents a goal that the agents on either side, or that the client agent and the server agent, are collaborating on. The client sends contextual information and descriptions of what needs to happen to the server agent. The server agent responds with status, what it's working on, and also if it needs any more information. As it's generating responses, it can stream those back as well. And then if the remote side is blocked on needing more information, it can signal back to the client that I need you to give me this structured information, or I need you to give me more documents, or I need you to give me more information. Some emerging usage that we're seeing that wasn't really anticipated is people are also using A2A as a app to agent protocol, where I have some app that is not an agent, but I want it to speak with an agent. I want it to be able to communicate easily with the agent. And so that's where we're looking at adding more support for sort of this more quick moving conversation access.
So app to agent is different than agent to agent. I got it. I want to chat with you about, so we're talking about like capability discovery. You briefly mentioned this, but I think that's very important as well, that like the conversation is no longer just textual. Agents are not only performing textual tasks. I'm just thinking about the stuff we talk about here on ThursdAI is like there's video AI generation, a bunch, and sometimes those take a long time. And maybe I wanted to go and create 7 videos, review them, etc. I want like video generating agents. Maybe I want to connect it to a lip syncing, whatever agent, etc. But I want to see this. And there's the capability discovery, but there's also the kind of what language are we speaking discovery as well. And you briefly mentioned like the types of stuff. Could you speak about that? That approach is, I think, is very interesting. It's not only textual. You mentioned iframes. I think you mentioned the video frame as well.
Yeah. So text is definitely the dominant modality today, but we do see a lot of models that, not just models, we see agents that work in different modalities and even have custom branded experiences with them. So we definitely want the agents to communicate in their natural modality. So there could be scenarios where agents are audio only or video only. They should be able to negotiate that through the protocol. There are times where they want to start textual and then move to audio or move to video. You could think of a scenario where a client wants to ask a work helper agent, help me reset my password, and says, oh, we need to do an identity verification. We need to start a video stream with you and an identity provider, and say you work with that identity provider with a video stream. There are also cases where one of the agents really needs to have their branded experience in front of their user for business reasons or trust reasons or relationship reasons. And so that agent may say, hey, I need to render all my content. You need to give me a HTML iframe that I can render in, and I'll do that, or I'll provide you a frame and you can embed that there. So it's really up to both agents to determine what the right modality is for the given task.
And I love the fact that it's built in, and I think we'll see a lot of innovation in there, especially in the iframe area, but like also in the video and modalities area. I think we'll see like a lot of innovation. Very exciting to see this. But you did mention a password changing agent, and I think this moves us to the next conversation about just protocols in general and security and authentication. And I think that's one very important piece, because we did mention registries. Let's say we did mention enterprise use cases internal to the enterprise, where like I, as an IT provider for the enterprise, will expose multiple agents to the whole organization for them to use. Those will supposedly be confined within the auth scope of the enterprise as well. Could you talk about how you guys approach security and auth as a concept in the protocol? What's treated? Are there primitives for this? And then how identity and scopes, like all these things, work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the core design principles is that we really, especially as it comes to enterprise readiness, authentication, tracing, et cetera, we do not want to invent anything new. We want to make sure that it works with everything that exists in the world. Because of that, we designed it to be a point-to-point protocol between essentially two services. Instead of having multiple identities, instead of having to fan out or go through many proxies, we want the client and the server to be treated as applications, as normal applications or services within the enterprise. And because of that, you carry your application identity and your user identity, and standard OAuth, standard IDP, standard internal enterprise auth is intended to just work. And so the idea is identity information is not carried in the payload of the protocol. It's carried in HTTP. So it's carried in HTTP headers.
I see. So that, just to try to wrap my head around this, me as a user, not a developer, me as a user of an agent that I have access to, I don't know, our Jira and my Gmail specific with scope and a specific Google group, I would still have those accesses. Will I be able to delegate this to my agent to then delegate this to the other agent via the protocol so that like the server agent will be able to carry tasks in my name, in my scope?
Yeah, so what will happen is you'll be using some agent, and when that agent wants to work with the Jira agent will reply within the protocol, hey, here's the identity information I need from your user. Your application will then say, hey, you need to log in with Jira and get a token, assuming that it uses OAuth. And then
that would be a standard OAuth process that the user,
yes,
am very familiar with.
Yes, and then you'll go ahead and you'll do the standard OAuth flow with Jira, and you'll authorize your agent to speak to Jira on your behalf. And then those will be passed through HTTP headers that here's your user ID, here's your bearer token, etc., that are in the HTTP headers of the A2A request to actually make the changes. So you'll do the OAuth handshake out of band. You'll do whatever IAM, access control, identity management, work with the IDP, whatever that service provider requires. You'll do that outside of the protocol, and then you'll carry the credential material in the HTTP headers.
You mentioned out of band. Could you elaborate what that means?
Yeah, so you don't do the OAuth handshake, for example, in A2A. There's not an A2A method for getting credentials. Instead, A2A server will say, hey, here's where you need to go get credentials from, support whatever authentication scheme or protocol is required. So if that's OIDC, if that's OAuth, if that's some SSO, something proprietary, you can do that as well. You work directly with that identity provider to grab the materials, and then you can include them in subsequent A2A requests.
I hear that. That's great. Moving forward a little bit, I want to talk about governance, neutrality, and like all of these things. For many folks who like think about adopting a protocol, vendor neutrality is very important, but also there are like standards bodies as well. How are you guys thinking about governance, and how are you thinking about standards bodies? How are you thinking about kind of proposals, suggestions to the protocol from the different companies? I would love to hear your kind of approach and thinking currently about this.
Yeah, so right now A2A is in a Google GitHub repo. When things stabilize, we do plan on moving it to a community-owned repo, maybe something like the Linux Foundation. We're not exactly sure yet. We plan on having a completely open governance model. This is not something that we want to gatekeep. This is really in the best interest of the industry and of consumers to have all of their agents actually be able to work together and not have any sort of protocol war or competitive advantage for company A over company B because of special features. We really want this to be a standard and become a standard quickly and have open governance.
I think Google has a long history of those things happening as well. I'm proud. Speaking of like protocol submissions as well, could you speak to how this is used within the scope of what you can talk about, how this is used within Google, whether or not this is used already within Google, and then also other companies that are already like using this protocol for their like agents or building against this protocol? Could you speak to like actual use cases that you've seen and come up and like some examples?
Yeah, so at Google Next last week, I believe we announced a product called Agent Space that is now generally available, which is a internal search engine for your company, and it also has agents in it, and then it has a no-code agent builder and the ability to host third-party agents in there as well. So Agent Space is starting to adopt A2A. At some point, Agent Space, all of the agentic interactions will be A2A. Agent Space also is working with a lot of partners. So you can build agents on different platforms. You can build them in whatever framework you want. You can build them in LangChain. You can build them in CrewAI. You can build them from other low-code, no-code vendors like Salesforce, and have all of those work in Agent Space. And the way it works is all of them will speak A2A. So there's not a lot of heavy lifting that Agent Space actually has to do. There's other products in Google that are starting to adopt it as well. I don't want to say their names right now because I don't know if they will, like when they're going to announce or what they're going to announce, but there's a lot of momentum inside Google.
Awesome. We are excited to see, and also obviously we're like a supporting partner in this as well. This thing I would love to chat with you about. How are you thinking from a protocol level about transparency to the developer, and maybe not the user, the developer of the client agent, let's say, because at least part of the concern that we have, and we have created an RFC to the MCP spec, is that the more things that are happening outside of the client that I built as a developer, my agent that I built as a developer, the less I have observability into like what's happening generally, the less I have the ability to debug, to evaluate, to see how my users interact with this, right? So we opened this kind of like OTel and MCP support as well. Have you guys given any thought into that kind of category of problems for developers? And if yes, what are your current thoughts about like how developing and developer experience with A2A could happen?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the enterprise concerns that we have, in the operability concerns. You can't have a mesh of services if you can't observe them. And I think the key word there is service. We're treating agents like standard services that you would have, either microservices or cross-organization services. And because of that, OTel just works. So instrument your HTTP clients, instrument your SDK. I think as we're building out the SDK, we're absolutely going to have OTel support in there from the beginning as well, so that it can be customized in each installation to record wherever you need it to record. But the key feature of simplicity that we hope to design into it is really just model it like a normal client-server application and use everything that already exists. Do not invent anything new.
Okay, OTel, for folks who are listening who are not as familiar, is another protocol, open protocol called OpenTelemetry, which specifically specifies how, in the open way, companies like Weiss and Biases, Weave, and like other can collect this telemetry from multiple servers and compile them into something the developer can see. I have a question that came from Yam here on the panel as well. How do you define like agent failed cases? We know in the world of LLMs, like a bunch of hallucinations happen, sometimes failures happens, maybe like errors happening. What is defined the agent failure kind of use case? Does the client or server agent like communicate back, hey, I wasn't able to do this? And also, how does it communicate over time? Is there like progress updates about I'm about to do this and then I failed, etc.? Like what definition do you have for the agent did exactly what I wanted, or and how does it update you on the progress?
Yeah, so that's core to the task abstraction that we have. That's the main object during communication between the two agents. So a task carries with it a state. The state is set by the server agent, and the server agent can respond with all sorts of updates, and they're generally categorized into two things. We call them messages or artifacts. Artifacts are official generated results for the task that's happening. There can be multiple artifacts associated with one request. Like I want 7 images, each image would be its own artifact. Messages are for everything else. It could be thoughts, it could be status, it could be requests for more information. Some of the states officially are like, hey, I've failed, or hey, I'm done, or hey, I need more information. It doesn't say hey in it, I'm just realizing, but It says status is failed, status is complete. Even when the status is complete, the client can evaluate the results of the artifacts, the result of what the agent generated, and decide that it's not good enough, and say, like an example that we have is client says to the agent, create an image of a rabbit for me, and the agent generates a rabbit and streams it back and sends it to the client and says, I'm complete in the task. Within that task, the client can then send, no, I want it to be red. And that should reactivate the task on the other side. The task would then move from completed to working. Things would stream back, and then it would be completed again, and you'd get a new artifact, which is the red image of the rabbit. So the state is carried in task, and then both sides are able to send each other messages.
So we covered, I think, most of the primitives. We have the secure collaboration, which like authentication is part of it, and you mentioned standard OAuth is supported, and like regular enterprise things. You don't want to reinvent the wheel within the protocol. You want to just have it ride on top of the protocol to expose my credentials to the, let's say, through my client server, client agent. I need to get used to saying this. Client agent and then server agent as well. Task and state management, which we covered as well, like the continuous asynchronous tasks happening so that things can happen in the background, and then notifications are happening backwards as well, right? So if my agent or my client application, let's say, has the capability to notify me via an iOS app or notification, supposedly then I can get be kept apprised about like the happenings of the server agent, right? This is the notification thing.
Yeah, there's another feature that you just mentioned, the push notification feature. Yeah, so you can create a task, client can create a task, and the server can stream back results and give status updates. But for extremely long running tasks, like especially ones that could take hours or days, we don't anticipate the client and server being connected the whole time. So instead, the client can provide a push notification service that the server can send updates to. That has another set of authentication and authorization that's required, because then the server becomes the client. So we have details in our spec for that. But the idea is that as the server agent is changing states or generating artifacts, even if it's disconnected from the client, if the client has provided some sort of notification callback, then the server can post results there.
And that notification system, that's built into the protocol, or is that like writing the,
Yes.
I don't know, the iOS and Android ones, or the web worker one?
That's built into the protocol.
Okay, so basically in the protocol, if I build a client agent and I wanted to talk to agents that take 3 days to do something while waiting on humans, let's say, to fix my car and send me a notification, your car is fixed, come pick it up, the live connection via, I don't know, WebSockets, or we didn't actually talk about like the live connection is happening on the protocol, but that doesn't need to be maintained for 3 days straight. It's also like very, very difficult for companies to build those long connections as well. One of the issues with MCP was also stateless versus stateful, and how long to carry this connection as well. So you have a notification service built in with the A2A. The thing that you quickly mentioned, I want to like just make sure that we clarify. The client becomes the server, and the server becomes the client. That only refers to the push notification communication, right? Because like in this case, me as a client,
yes, in that case,
I like open up here's where to send notifications, and then the server agents now subscribe to that and send notifications back. So like only in that level, right?
Yes. So only in the case of notifications, and it's more from the authentication authorization perspective. It's just it's really risky to just open up a port and say, send me updates here, and here's a cookie. Instead, we highly, that is possible, but we highly recommend that the notification service, which may not be the client itself, it may be something internally that posts things to a pub sub queue or something, fully authenticates and authorizes the server agent.
All right, Todd, I know that I promised you like to be very mindful of your time. In the last, I know we're like over for a few minutes. Just like one last question. Is there anything important that we didn't cover, that I didn't ask you about the protocol? And maybe where can folks go and find out more, and how they can actually start interacting with it?
Yeah, so go to the GitHub project. So I believe it's github.com/Google/A2A. There's a lot of PRs. There's a lot of open issues. We're having lots of discussions in the open. We're going to continue to evolve things in the open as we work towards official SDK and official kind of production release, and as more Google products come out there, and work with more industry partners to get more examples and have more products there. So try it out, give us feedback, send us PRs. We love code.
That's incredible. Todd, thank you so much for coming. Shout out to you and the team who worked on this in Google. All right, folks, I hope this was helpful to folks in the audience as well. As with protocols, like Yam said, we can't use this now, like the SDK is on its way. But the same happened with the MCP protocol. We talked about this at Thanksgiving. I remember like last year, we announced this and we didn't have a lot to say. There was not a lot of implementation. And then recently MCP just like absolutely blew up. Everybody's supporting this. Google, Microsoft, GitHub, Anthropic, OpenAI, like all of the big players are now supporting MCP as well. It takes time for protocol adoption. It needs critical mass of users, developers, and companies. It looks like Google is doing the right thing, and hopefully this gave you a little bit of an insight about what's coming. So if you want to be an expert in what's coming to enterprises in 6 to 8 to 12 months, now's the time to start. And as a listener of ThursdAI, you got the alpha, hopefully. Moving on super quick. I know we're like past 10 minutes, but I cannot skip without telling you like the things that happen in the world of video. We won't have that much time to actually show anything. I just want to like announce a few things. So VEO2 from Google is their video generation model, is now in general availability in the Gemini app in AI Dev as well. So if you use Gemini, I believe Gemini, will I have access to it? Let's see. Help, you're a guy. No, I don't have access to it. I don't think. But if you go to ai.dev, which is the shortcut URL that I love for AI Studio, you'll see the new UI. A video gen is right here, and you have VO2 video generation. You can do 2 results, and you can ask for stuff. You can even upload images super quick, and then you can just generate a bunch of stuff with video in VO2. VO2 is still considered one of the best video generation models out there. Very, very strong realism. Very, very good. It's also fast. So other generating images, they generate up to 8 seconds, and then other generating video images generate like longer. By other ones that just came out called Kling. I really want to show you Kling. Kling so far wasn't useful to you on the US side because Kling did require a Chinese phone number. Kling just released Kling 2.0, and I said throughout a very late night to just like try to summarize all of them. Let me actually open this in another thing. Hold on one second. So Kling now released not only a state-of-the-art video, they claim state-of-the-art video model, they also released a full suite of tools at klingai.com that's now available to the Western kind of folks with non-Chinese phone numbers, which is, I think, is very, very important. You could use Kling via FAL, and you guys know we love FAL AI, the great friends of the pod, and you could use Kling there, they're partners, but also in the experience of Kling itself, there is two things, the model Kling 2.2, the image model Colors 2.0 also, so they have a not as quiet as Sora images, but like very, very close image generation as well. And oh yeah, from you thinking that the phone requirement was out for a while? Yeah. So maybe I'm overstating how much just was released. Folks, they're listening. Wolfram, let me know in the chat that like the Google account experience and phone number has been around for a while. I only got access to it recently. The thing that I wanted to highlight specifically is there's a few things that I've been doing, playing around with some stuff. This very interesting new multi-elements editor that they have, that they've kind of updated Kling 1.6, not the new one, to be able to reason about an image and then have text images all together in this one interface. I've never seen anything quite like this before. So you can like upload, I don't know, you can like paste in video. Let me see if I can, what is this? Let's say like this is my video. And then you can reason about this video. You can tag the video and say, hey, replace this thing in this video with this thing from this image. I haven't quite seen the conversation, multimodal conversation like this anywhere else. I just like really want to highlight this. They built a new version of Kling 1.6 that I think they call, I have a note about this, MVL prompt language. Concept, MVL prompt language. MVL stands for multimodal visual language that inlines images inside the text prompt for precise control. This, I think, is the thing that I wanted to highlight the most. You can say, I didn't upload my image, but you can say, oh, they have an example here. They have an example. So following the structure of swap content from @image from content from @video, and you can upload multiple images. So you can say, in this video, swap his, I don't know, hoodie to this type of hoodie, and you can add an image of the hoodie and say, in the UI. This allows for extreme precise control in the video generation, the kind that like AI artists like have been craving for a while. They also have effects. Effects are pretty cool. Lip sync, and I think the least but not very interesting is sound generation as well. You can ask for like thunder or car horn, which I hear people walking in the car horn generation, but car horn as well. So very cool. The thing that I love the most about the kind of the new update is that it's a holistic editing experience now. You can start with image generation right there in there. Not only that, they integrate DeepSeek within the thing. So if you don't know your prompts, you can ask DeepSeek, that's built in to help you with prompts. You go to image to video generation, you go to from video to extend, and then to lip sync and sound generation. They try to build this holistic tool because some of us who does AI art for fun, they know we have to go to 17,000 like different servers. Like here's one for prompts, here's one for the video, here's one for images, and combine them. And they're really going after this one holistic platform, and is really cool. And you can now subscribe with paying with dollars as well. That, I think, is it, folks. There's a few more releases on the open source side of the video stuff. ByteDance released Seaweed, and then 1X released like a new model as well. We didn't get to talk about DolphinGemma. Womp, 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 womp. But super quickly, folks at Google collaborated with like researchers to try to build a language model that understands dolphins and dolphin sounds, which is super, super cool. We didn't get to do dolphin sounds ourselves, which we wanted to. But I think other than that, we covered pretty much everything in a little bit over 2 hours and 15 minutes on ThursdAI. So, folks, thank you so much for joining. Yam, thank you. Nistan was here before. Wolfram, thank you so much for joining and trying to cover this insane week of news, including an in-depth interview about a protocol as well. Not an easy 2 hours as well. We celebrated the launch of o3 and o4-mini, and then 4.1, 4.1 nano, and 4.1 mini as well. We chatted about the voice and audio stuff. We just chatted about VO2 and Kling. We did an in-depth interview with Todd Segal from Google that works on the A2A protocol and why A2A matters in the world where MCP is taking place as well. We chatted about BitNet and intellect too, and just like a crazy week of updates. I really appreciate everybody's time here, especially folks who tune in and listen from week to week. As a reminder, if you missed any part of the show, you're welcome to subscribe to ThursdAI.news. You're welcome to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, ThursdAI.news/YT. We crossed 1,000 followers and we're rising fast in rankings as well last week. And if you liked and the show was helpful to you, please share with a friend of yours. That's the best way to support the show. Just share it with friends. With that, I think that the next week is going to be insane as well. And so I think some breaking news is going to come even today. I cannot say which. But keep Wolfram said, follow us on X because we will be on top of it even if we're not in the show format. I think I'm done with live streaming for this week, but we'll see. Maybe tomorrow something else will happen. But hopefully I'm done with live streaming this week. And with that said, I'm going to go and start editing the show. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And we'll see you here next week. Bye-bye.